Welcome to the Comics Experiment, the show right here at Comicstorian, where I sit around with my buddies every Thursday at twitch.tv/Comicstorian, and we talk. We're friends. We are friends.
Don't you lump me into that crap.
And we sit around and talk about all kinds of comic book stuff, from looking at various lists, talking about the history of comic books, talking about the latest movies, stuff like that along the lines. You can find it every Thursday live at twitch.tv/Comicstorian at about 2 p.m. Eastern. We then upload it to our Patreon, where you get the unedited flubs and issues, and probably this whole opening right here that you didn't get on the main channel, over at our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian. I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a second, because that's our sponsor today, us. And you
Not us.
Them.
You. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. And you can also catch it, not live, but you can catch it uploaded to our YouTube every Saturday, where many of you watch it. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, and all kinds of wherever places Nick puts this up, because I don't actually track where he puts it up. I just get like a bunch of emails that are like, you got a 5-star review at this weird thing. And I'm like, what is Podcast Apple Eaters Anonymous? I don't even know, but whatever.
Podcast
Dave's on the name.
Apple Eaters Anonymous. If it's not a thing, it should be. Right.
It's a support group for
Who's
people who
being
eat
that?
too many
I was
apples.
gonna say, who's eating that many apples? You need a support group that you got to be anonymous at.
But you know what that support group does? Never has to see a doctor.
It's true. There are no medical professionals at that support group.
Doctors hate the support group. Find out why.
Anyway, guys, today's episode is brought to you by our ongoing sponsor of G Fuel. Use the code COMICS at checkout to get 10% off of your order. It's an energy supplement that I drink a ton of. They've also just come out with the French vanilla coffee flavor, which I just handed you a tub of.
They actually taste like French vanilla coffee.
Yes, they do. And they also have a hydration line, which we enjoy as well. I should be getting more pineapple in our G Fuel sponsors. If you're watching this, I need more pineapple hydration formula. That'd be great.
If you're watching, send me more.
This is how you order
Yeah,
order products.
I
right?
could text them,
If
but
you're
whatever.
watching.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Also, if anyone on Amazon is watching,
And we're also brought to you by our Patreon. We do kind of condense this portion down a little bit when we have other sponsors, but today we don't. So our Patreon is where you can get early access to pretty much every video we make, except for the last second ones. So that gives you like 5 or 6 early access a week. You also get unedited versions of this podcast, Comics Reviewed, the 3 Beers and a Topic, and Tales of Earth. What do you guys? What's the name of your show?
Tales on Earth. I kind of like that now.
it's been going on for a year, and it was his idea, but he has no idea what it's called.
You also get Absolute Comics, the show that me and Sal produce over there. And any support you can give us over on our Patreon helps us out immensely, and we really do appreciate all that support, guys. Anyway, I think I've talked about our own projects long enough. We're at 3 minutes on the countdown, and I have a 10-minute rant at the beginning of this of the amazing show from the UK, Can't Pay, We'll Take It Away. I just want to know, when they were thinking of the name of the show, were they just like, Repo Men UK? No.
Doesn't rhyme
High
enough.
Court
Doesn't
Enforcement?
rhyme.
No. Well, on this show, if you can't pay, they take it away.
My gosh, it rhymes.
Perfect.
That show is amazing.
I mean, let's be honest. Rhyming sells.
It's true.
It does.
So today's topic is going to be very simple. Not much has happened in the comic book world, but Harley Quinn comes out next week. So we've got alternate Harley Quinns we're going to talk about next week, all the different versions.
Ooh.
I mean, there's like 4.
All 7 of them.
No, there's more, because there's like 4 in continuity right now.
That's
the
just
weird-
her multiple personalities.
The weird thing with Harley is a lot of the time it's like very, very
Yeah, it's still
small
technically
change.
Harley. It's just wherever she sits in that particular universe.
It's like, well, she had red on this side and black on this side. Now it's red on this side and black on this side.
Well, like Harley Quinn of
wait, that's a
Injustice
mirror.
universe almost became a Robin.
Yeah.
which is also
I
where
would
she
read
is at
that.
in the Curse of the White Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we have, I think it's Harleen, where she's classic Harley.
Right.
We have animated Harley.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably what we should do next week.
No, let's just do it now.
So today we're going to talk about the worst changes that Andy and I can remember to superheroes, and I've got 2 lists. One from Screen Rant of the worst changes made to famous superheroes, and then one from CBR, which is the 10 massive character changes from the New 52 that, well, didn't last long.
That doesn't mean they were necessarily
like the New
bad.
52.
Right, so we're going to go.
Just didn't mean they
and then
lasted
you and
long.
I
They
were
all
talking about some fun 90s ones,
The 90s.
and we assumed that for the most part, this show would be me and Andy kind of reminiscing
I think reminiscing.
about the 90s comic books, and Dan going, really?
Ha! Yes, indeed.
So this is gonna be the tone for the day.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you are
This
from
is my I do not know what you're talking about, but I agree. Ha ha.
kind of
That's like the tick voice.
I would have gone with like 50s radio announcer. Buy
Indeed.
Ovaltine.
Whoa, you're gonna buy Ovaltine?
Yeah. Well, not anymore. Huh? Do they even still make Ovaltine?
I don't know how to Google
I
it.
think they do.
I don't know.
Ovaltine.
Oh my lord! Just go to the
No,
list.
now I need to know. Now I need to know.
Top
Ovaltine.
10
Still do.
Ovaltine products.
It's right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
It's 116 years old. Fun fact: they were all made in 116 years ago, and we're
just
still
never
trying to get.
sold
Yeah,
out.
we're still trying to get through them.
So, off the top of your head, Andy, what is
Yes.
one of
They
the
sold
worst
6.
changes to your favorite superheroes that has come
The
out?
worst changes
We'll get-
to my favorite superheroes.
And Dan, I'm giving you time to think about your favorites.
Okay,
They
so
all involve X-23.
if we go back to ye old days of the 90s, it was
Ye
a time of extremes and pizza bagels, and
Yeah.
I would say
and
at
Guy
the,
Fieri's.
at the time, no, that was like
Flavor Town.
2000s.
Yeah,
that was
I was gonna
2000s.
say.
no,
Yeah.
but it's like he carries on the 90s mentality in his Flavor Town.
I could
I
kind of
mean,
see
with
maybe.
the frosted tips.
At the time, as a small child, I did not think it was stupid, but now as a 30-something-year-old man, I do think it's stupid. Was the Electric Superman
Yes.
from, I want to say 95, maybe 96? So it was Superman had died.
Okay.
Okay, that was 93, I
Which was the
believe.
most successful Superman story ever.
Right.
So obviously then the reign of
So this
Superman.
was his first time dying.
This is the first time.
This is the
Okay.
real
This
one.
is
The
the
real
first time
one.
actually, like
Okay.
everybody was wearing armbands and crap. Yeah.
Okay.
In real life, not in the comics. This was the thing. We got very into it in the 90s. So yeah, then the fourth Superman had showed up: Superboy, Steel, Eradicator, Cyborg Superman. Eventually, obviously, Superman comes back and he takes over again as Superman. But there was something wrong with his powers; it was really wonky. And eventually, he became too powerful and morphed into like this electric blue Superman.
Please look it up.
I'll show you the picture.
So they had
Superman,
they had to
electric
get
blue.
they had to get him like a containment suit, and he had a whole new mess of powers. Yeah,
Okay, that's actually kind of cool
but like
looking,
as
though.
a kid, I was just like, "Oh, this is
That's
so
so
cool
cool.
looking." And as an adult, and it still kind of looks cool,
Right.
But the actual like point of it was kind of dumb. Yeah, so that would probably.
I didn't think it lasted long. Like,
like
he couldn't
it.
control the powers, and that was the end of that.
Well, it was. I mean, it was for a while because then he split into like Electric Superman Red and Electric Superman Blue, and yeah, it was. I mean, it was a little bit.
I will say the one that still stands out the most to me as a kid. I was a huge Spider-Man fan. Okay, in Clone Saga, while everyone knows I hate the Clone Saga,
As a kid, Ben preached about it. He loved it. It was his favorite.
I hated the Clone Saga, and that's not even the worst change and I don't know if you remember this that well, but when the Clone Saga wrapped up, the change was that I thought was the worst one ever. Ben Reilly was the real Peter Parker,
Yes.
and Peter Parker was actually a clone.
and then Peter
this
Parker
entire
went to
time.
like give up Spider-Man, and so Ben Reilly became Spider-Man, but with a different Spider-Man costume,
yeah.
and was like he was like homeless or something for a little while,
It-
or working at a coffee shop or something like that.
It was
weird, yeah.
all an attempt to get rid of the marriage,
Yes.
but also maintain it. But their way of doing so was going,
We'll just have a new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Screw it. We don't need to worry about it then. Peter Parker will show up every now and then. It'll be fine.
and then like a year later, it was like changed back to where it was
Right.
like, oh no,
'Cause
Peter
then
Parker was
they-
actually Peter Parker.
Yeah, that was good. They discovered Ben Reilly was actually the clone.
So I consider that one of the
cloning.
worst changes.
Ah,
And you
the
can tell comic
90s.
book readers also because they had to change it back.
yeah.
Because that was supposed to be the fix. It was now Ben Reilly is Spider-Man, and he's just Peter Parker with a different
I
name.
did like Ben Reilly as Spider-Man for a little while.
Yeah.
It was a fun like little story, but yeah.
Right.
It was a dumb plot altogether.
Okay, Dan, you've only been reading comics for the last
You know,
3
I will give
weeks.
just the most recent one that I can think of because
Okay.
I was having trouble actually paying attention and thinking at the same time.
I go through
and
that
I
all the time.
bet you can figure out which viewer will love that I'm saying this.
I don't know.
Bendis aging up John.
That was a dumb point.
That was a-
that was
yeah.
a change that was an irreversible change that
It's not irreversible,
needed.
but it's not needed. I agree.
it's not needed.
Just
It's
give it a minute.
not
We'll have another
irreversible,
crisis, and we
but-
won't have to worry about it
Yeah.
anymore.
It's just a modern day change that not many people like.
I don't think anyone like. Okay, you want to tell some cool stories? I'm on board with that. But I have yet to meet anyone that's like, no, I really wanted a 16-year-old John Kent in my stories. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, then let's get into the first list. We'll start with the Screen Rant one because I'm wondering, these look like they're older based on these images.
It does look that way
Yes.
because that's
Yeah.
Ben Riley.
That's the Ben Riley Spider-Man. I didn't even
Batman.
I didn't even realize that until I pulled this up, and now I'm looking at these. And then
90s boob windowed.
Sue Richards.
That was
Sue
her
Richards. Yeah, that's what they call her.
You know what?
There goes boob window.
Remind me to talk about Boob Window in a minute.
Pebble Girl. Oh, look, number 10. Superman Red and Blue. Boom.
So we already discussed Electric
Can
Superman.
I preface this list as I preface all lists?
What?
I don't know who wrote this list, but that person's an idiot.
Even though you agree with the
I don't
first
care.
one.
It doesn't matter. There's always going to be something I don't agree with on a list.
This one is
fair.
from Screen Rant. Yeah, Superman Red and Blue is number 10. We just talked about it. Peter Parker replaced with a clone.
God,
number,
we're good.
number 9. Yeah, Peter Parker
I
replaced with
like
a
for
clone.
a while though. Ben really liked original Scarlet Spider, the one who's wearing the denim hoodie.
Okay, it was the
Okay, that's
90s.
pretty
That was cool.
He's wearing a denim hoodie.
Oh my goodness.
Well, because he had the impact webbing. That's what I liked about him.
All I know is he was wearing a denim hoodie. You don't get more 90s than a denim hoodie.
It's because it was the 90s, and Ben Riley was like emo. Oh man, I want to be.
He was pretty emo in the 90s.
Yeah,
so,
I had like the long spikes and the Jenko jeans.
I've seen the MySpace pictures.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But no, Ben Riley was like, oh man, I want to be with Mary
Life
Jane.
sucks.
But the real Peter Parker's with Mary Jane. Oh, I'm Peter Parker. I should just get Mary Jane.
Life is pain.
I need my denim hoodie.
Number 8 is the all-new powerless Wonder Woman, who apparently, based on these images, became a movie star
Or a go-go dancer.
or a go-go dancer.
Why not both?
So number 8 is writers hadn't grasped. Nowadays, whenever a comic book universe wants to keep things fresh, we get a massive crossover that rewrites the multiverse, yet keeps the characters as faithful versions of themselves, if
DC
slightly
Comics.
altered. Writers hadn't quite grasped the idea in 1968, which is why they took Wonder Woman, forced her into a pantsuit, and took away her powers so that she could learn kung fu and run a boutique store.
Who thought that was a good idea?
This is
I understand, like, it's a different time frame, right? And like nowadays, you know, that would be really weird.
Right.
But like at the time, who was like, you know what would be an awesome storyline for our comic book? Is if our superpowered female character loses all her superpowers and runs a boutique store.
with a
Nowadays,
pantsuit.
Yeah, like the
And
90s.
wears a pantsuit.
The 90s would have been like Bruce Wayne gives up all of his $1 million and runs a Gap on the weekends.
This is the woman who spent her entire life training on the island of the Amazons, but wow, sure is great that she can now break boards with her hands and stand behind a counter and submit tax returns.
Yeah, like
The change was meant for the better, as the previous version of Wonder Woman was still struggling to shake off the image as the Justice League's secretary/token girl. Plus, it was the 70s and feminism was a thing. I'm pretty sure it's still a thing, but
no. It's just a thing in the 70s.
it's
And
over.
at the time, all feminists wanted to run a boutique and learn kung fu.
And wear pantsuits.
And wear
Stop
pantsuits.
forgetting about the pantsuit.
With shoulder pads. That was the thing. I think.
Do you think
in
she
the
needs?
70s.
Do you think Wonder Woman needs shoulder pads?
I don't. I would assume no, but who knows?
Still, the character proved too iconic to leave powerless and running her own clothing store for the next 50 years, meaning that we soon return to Wonder Woman, who could actually hold her own in a fight against Doomsday and not just make a flimsy attempt to knock him out with a Naki. God, you say that one, Andy.
Nakadate Ippon Kinzuki Punch.
Okay.
Well played.
Thank you.
Yes, that's actually a thing she says in the comic.
Oh, of course it is.
That's where that came from. Okay.
See, that's why when you have a super move, you don't want a really long name for it. Because you don't want to give them enough time to block it.
Number 7 is the Justice League of Detroit. Man, Detroit could really use that today.
Ooh, topical. Keep going, I'm with you.
The name alone of this group should raise an eyebrow, since the actual Justice League are better known for hanging around an orbiting space station, not Detroit. The team was formed when the original league disbanded, and writers decided to drop the little-known deadweight off the team. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all those people.
Yeah, they were lame.
And they replaced them with huge names like Gypsy, Vibe, and Steel, the latter of whom doesn't even have his own Wikipedia page through some criminal oversight.
That's good.
The comic failed to generate the buzz of its own of its original incarnation, possibly due to the fact that it tried to give us a cast of hip, edgy D-list teenagers and failed. Even with the more successful Teen Titans just around the corner, instead of the team simply being disbanded, their final issue had them utterly destroyed by a combination of members quitting and an onslaught of vicious androids that murdered 2 members of the League.
Jesus Christ.
It's more or less how comic book writers admit the idea didn't pan out. I'm gonna kill you all.
Actually, it's funny because
It's a good thing they dropped the dead weights, though.
Grant Morrison has a tendency to do that when he takes over a team and he doesn't like certain members. He just murders them. He did it when he took over Justice League.
Yeah.
At the time, I want to say it was 95.
Who'd he kill?
I don't even remember it. But the Justice League at the time was like a bunch of D-listers.
Right.
And he was like, no, I want Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, blah, 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 blah. So for story purposes, he just murdered like half the team and the other half was just in the hospital. And he was like, okay, cool. I got all the ones I want now.
I mean, honestly, I said Bendis did when he took over the Avengers.
Yeah.
Avengers Disassembled, one of the best Avengers stories ever, is about them basically destroying the Avengers team.
I mean,
remember Jack of Hearts blowing up?
I mean, I was going to say, if the editors can't get mad at you if all the other members are dead. Well, I can't use them. They're all dead.
All right, number 6 is Captain America becomes the Nomad.
I just like his costume. That's a deep V.
I approve. I approve because of the deep V.
I want you to wear a deep V on the set one time.
Yeah.
Deep V.
I used to
You
have
gotta keep
one.
your nipples covered or we'll get banned.
I used
That's
to
true.
have one. It was like,
Showing the navel. That's what you got to get down to.
I gotta get all the way down. It's only barely held together at the bottom.
Right,
It's
right.
that deep of a V.
It's actually just a
It's
button.
almost a vest.
It's a vest. It actually is a vest. He's wearing it as a super deep V.
I'm sorry, Captain
I
America.
just get a
Nomad, go
shirt
ahead.
and cut a triangle.
There
out.
you go.
Several characters have taken up the mantle of Captain America, but most of these have simply been keeping the seat warm for the inevitable return of Steve Rogers, the rightful owner of the title. However, Cap's stint as Nomad had him tossing away the name along with his devotion to patriotism. This comes after the President of the United States is revealed to be a supervillain, or simply the Marvel Universe version of the Watergate scandal, causing Cap to reinvent himself as a man without a country. This apparently meant that he had to dress in a costume that was somehow both impractical and generic by ditching his indestructible shield that he probably could have just painted over.
Yeah, like black. Just
The cover featuring his first adventure even has him charging into gunfire completely barehanded with while his old shield flies uselessly in the background.
Just flying by itself.
After fighting a snake lady and tripping over his own gigantic cape,
cape too?
Steve Rogers eventually realizes that one dead president shouldn't be the end of patriotism itself and becomes Captain America once more.
I like to think that that's exactly when it happened. He like trips to the cape, right? The bad guys get away, and he's just kind of sitting there, like maybe with a sprained ankle, and he's just like, guys, on second thought, America's not that bad, right?
Also, I kind of want to get rid of this cape.
This thing is stupid.
Just right in
I
the
should
way.
have listened to Edna.
Number 5 is Sue Storm's 90s costume switch. This is the infamous boob window.
The 4 boob window, for the record.
That is true,
That
yes.
needs to be known that it's shaped as a number 4.
This is also the time frame where Mr. Fantastic started wearing like body armor.
Yeah, didn't he?
Yeah, he was wearing like military like ammo vest for some
Now,
reason.
before I read this, if I remember the story correctly, and this is going to be me testing my knowledge, I believe it was literally just the writer wanting to put her in a scantily clad outfit.
and
I
made a
bel-
storyline.
And I think the storyline basically was, you can't tell me what to do, Reed.
It was,
I'm
yes.
going to wear
Yes.
what I want.
Yes.
And it was a boob window with her midsection revealed because Reed designed the previous outfit. So this was like her way to...
She's like, you know what? All the parts that you covered last time, I'm now revealing.
It'd be funny if he was just like,
opposite
"Oh no, this is awful. This is definitely not what I wanted to happen."
It's no secret that female superhero costumes typically more revealing. Most artists are male, and most readers are male. And when Wonder Woman wants to fight evil in a one-piece metal armor and high heels, it's a sad fact of life we've come to accept. Sue Storm has always been immune to this, being a part of Marvel's first family and supposedly a good role model for all the obedient 50s housewives since her debut.
I mean, it's true. That was the idea. Yes.
Yeah.
Goodness.
This all changed in the 90s when she ended up wearing a little more than a
Whoa,
bikini.
hold up. You forgot the sigh.
Sigh.
It's in parentheses and it's written down that there's a sigh.
It's true. You have to read it right.
No, I got to read the pun. A forkini. if you will.
What's the problem?
I like it.
It's like a bikini. But
Upon
with a four.
seeing it for the first time, Reed declares in shock that Sue designed herself a new costume, though it seems like a funny way of stating that she just hung up the old one on a wash line and butchered it with a chainsaw until it felt edgy enough. It's bad enough that this outfit was meant for fighting crime, as it goes on to represent more or less everything wrong with how female comic book characters are portrayed. All in one terrible outfit, accompanying personality change. Why does the 4 need to be a blank space? What's the purpose of the massive gloves? Was the midriff window really necessary? It was transparent.
Yes. Yes.
It was a transparent attempt at empowerment that totally ignored the fact that Sue Storm could turn invisible, project force fields, hold the team together, and maintain her status as one of the most famous female superheroes of all time, all without the ability to turn very specific parts of her clothing invisible.
I don't see the problem.
Neither. I like the boom
And
window.
that's the problem.
That is the problem.
Yes.
Number 4 is that the Guardians of the Galaxy added A-listers. I remember when they did
I remember this. Yeah,
It
when they
wasn't a
started
good idea.
going, hey, so now you got Iron Man, now you got Captain Marvel.
Wasn't
now
also
you got
Venom.
I think they
Yeah,
gave,
Venom.
yeah, Venom. Didn't they put Spider-Man out there at some point?
the plot
It's-
reason was that the Guardians should have an Avenger on the team at all times.
Yes.
They
well,
should-
I mean, they're essentially Space Avengers.
yeah.
Yes.
Everyone knows the
Avengers,
classic Guardians of the
Space
Galaxy lineup
Avengers.
thanks to the hit film. Okay, for the record, that's not the classic Guardians of the Galaxy lineup, but anyway.
That is
And
true.
a slew of 80s tunes. It's not. The movie
No,
version.
I
Yeah.
know.
The Guardians of the Galaxy, for the record, guys, from the movie. I love that version, and I even loved the comic that came out after that.
Oh, yeah.
But if you had been reading Annihilation and such, most of those characters weren't what you saw.
No.
And they weren't even a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The current version that Donny Cates is doing is closer to the original.
Yes.
Yeah. With like, what's it, Moondragon,
Moondragon.
Phyla.
Moon's fire.
I was gonna say Moon Phyla, but I'm like, isn't Phyla the other girl,
Yeah.
the bald one? And no, it's Moondragon actually.
Yes, that you just tried to name other people and just kept describing the same
He's like,
character.
who's in the Guardians now? Spider-Man.
The guy that can do the other spider stuff.
yeah, Miles Morales, but not
Venom,
Spider-Man. Yeah,
Venom. Spider Gwen, Spider Woman. Oh wait, that's Spider Verse. That's Spider Verse.
All right, I'll be honest. I've never read Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know.
Yet the lineup in the comics has constantly changed, switching to include a bunch of other outer space misfits that no casual fan could have ever heard of. This ragtag quality is why the team works similar to DC Suicide Squad, which is why the formula stops working when there's big names thrown in. The Guardians of the Galaxy expanded to include A-listers such as Captain Marvel and Iron Man, with their most recent roster change including Kitty Pryde, The Thing, and Venom. I remember all of them.
Yep.
Well, Kitty Pryde took over as Star-Lord for a little while there,
Yep.
didn't she?
Yeah.
And had the worst costume, and everyone kept referencing it. And she's like, I haven't decided yet, okay?
That was the joke the whole time. When all these characters have their own iconic teams back on Earth, it ruins the team dynamic and renders them more or less a space B-list Avengers, fighting threats that you don't care about because they're so remote. It gets worse when the A-listers start to pull the attention away from the original Guardians, which they inevitably do for the time they join. Meanwhile, the Suicide Squad is touted as a bunch of bad guys that can absolutely die at any time. A unique take on a usual invincible superhero genre.
Actually, let's be honest. Suicide Squad started that way, and then they were like, no. You can kill anyone you want except Harley, Deadshot,
Yep.
King Shark,
Yep.
Captain Boomerang.
It's always like, wait,
Katana.
who's on the team this issue? Yeah, that person's dead.
It's like,
Hold
wait.
on. They did
let's
kill
add
Captain
this
Boomerang.
new person, and they brought him back.
Yeah, they brought him back, but they did kill him.
It's like,
And then they go back to where he died, and he's like, do you guys not remember I died here last time?
well, it's like, especially the new 52, it was like, Deadshot, we got a new member for the squad. And it's just like, all right, that person's going to die. But I give it 2 issues, tops.
No, yeah, because it would always be like, all right, Deadshot, you're taking out Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
King Shark, you're taking out Captain Boomerang. And
Who will betray you?
who will betray you. And Emperor Tombstone.
Who? Exactly.
Exactly. And half the time they always die as the just proving that they will do it. Not even during the mission. It's
Yeah.
we can blow you up. See, we can do it.
It's like when
I accidentally clicked it. But
It's like when Slipknot showed up in the movie at the very last part of the little team building exercise. Yeah, he can climb stuff or something. Like, he's gonna die. Okay.
Meanwhile, Suicide Squad. Okay, yeah. So yes, I agree. They changed up the team. Number 3 was when Nightcrawler became the son of a demon.
Yeah, Azazel.
This is still a thing.
There you go. Yeah.
Isn't it still a thing? I don't think they changed it.
As far as I know, it is.
In
yeah.
fact, he even goes to heaven and then has to go to hell to fight his dad at some point, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, we've all been there.
He's an angel pirate for a while. Do you remember
Which is
that
awesome.
storyline?
Yes, I do, actually. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He's
an angel pirate.
Which honestly is pretty cool.
That is pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie.
Pretty cool.
I mean, I'm not gonna go much more into it. That's it.
They changed him from a mutant.
Mystique was technically his mom.
Yes. Yep.
And then they decided that he needed some cool reason why he looked so evil.
Radically different. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was
and plus he's so religious, it's AGAF.
And then they used Azazel in the movie.
Yeah.
Yep. But they made Azazel just a mutant, didn't they, in the movie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't
Yeah,
like
They didn't make him a
Well,
dude.
they
They were
never-
just
they
like,
never really
hey,
went into it.
this
He didn't
is,
talk.
Red Nightcrawler.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
This is the Red Crawler.
Okay, so our X-Men fans will love this one. Number 2 is the Zorn Magneto Zorn. Do you not know about Magneto's?
I know. It was Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. Turns out Zorn was Magneto the whole time.
Except when he comes back in all new X-Men.
right, yeah,
then
yeah.
it was Jean Grey from the future.
That's right. Yeah.
Chuck Austin didn't create Zorn, but he certainly helped muddy the waters. Originally, Zorn was a teacher at Xavier's school who eventually unmasked himself as Magneto.
Wah, wah, wah.
Hyped up on a power drug, he then laid waste to New York City in his most murderous and destructive rampage to date. The decision to turn a Holocaust survivor into a genocidal maniac was met with some skepticism, which led to a slew of writers trying to fix the problem, and inadvertently making it worse each time. First, it was revealed that he was actually an imposter with a disapproving Magneto still in Genosha. Chuck Austin,
my gosh, is that the one that we
recently
eventually
showed
saw
up.
again? And we were just like, why are there 2 Magnetos?
Yeah, Zorn's back again.
Okay, just
Chuck
making
Austin
sure.
turned the imposter into real Zorn, who thought that he was Magneto due to a fit of madness and just so happened to look exactly like him because reasons.
What's the problem?
Because reasons.
It's comic books.
Brian Michael Bendis then wrote a story where it was further revealed that, is anyone exhausted yet? That it was Magneto and also Zorn who came back as an energy being still fixated on stealing Magneto's body because blah, 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 Scarlet Witch, magic, and comic book plots. The way the story was left,
Speedster time travel.
Yeah,
bullshit.
it's Scarlet Witch magic bullshit in the X-Men books.
and the way the story was left is that Magneto wasn't the original perpetrator, but was totally fine with people thinking that it was him, which still makes absolutely no sense, branding him as a mega city-destroying criminal for the sake of street cred, which mostly lays the problem to rest, except we still don't know who destroyed New York City. Was it Zorn, Phoenix, Squirrel Girl? Never mind. And for those who are not tracking, because this is an older list, Zorn is back!
I will say, however, I feel like they kind of actually addressed the not saying that he didn't do it of the destroying the city in the most
That's the one I'm talking about. He's back.
No, in with Dr. Doom. He shows up, someone hacks all the Doom bots, and they destroy the city, and Doom just doesn't reveal that someone hacked his Doom bots, and is like, yeah, no, I totally did that. This was my plan. Just because he doesn't want to admit that he
being
fumbled.
seen as a homicidal maniac or being shown that your computers can be hacked.
Homicidal maniac.
Exactly.
I would much prefer.
Strength over weakness.
Exactly.
I'm with it.
Especially when you're doomed.
And number 1, Ben's favorite 90s Batman storyline during his emo Ben Reilly enjoyment phase.
I still actually really like Azrael.
No, the original plot, the way it worked out.
Yeah.
Azrael becomes ultra gritty Batman. Now, for the record,
Sorry.
I'm a huge fan of the original Azrael and his original plot.
I do. I am too, but I also really like the Curse of the White Knight take on it too.
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, because I bring that up because Azrael became son of Azrael, sword of Azrael, all these different things you have to
Now he's
do.
a
And then they
space
made him
soldier.
into a Michael something or
God.
other. Like I like the original Jean Paul Valley take. Jean Paul Valley take on the character. I liked what they did with him. I thought it was great. I used to follow his solo books when
Yeah.
it was a thing. He's basically was what Red Hood is now.
Yeah, or essentially.
Yeah, that's what he was because at the time we didn't
Realistically.
have Red Hood.
Yeah.
We had Azrael
It was
running
them
around.
testing out Red Hood.
The only
before
problem I
Red
ever
Hood.
had with the original Azrael is as his solo series kept going, there was more and more crazy experiments
Yeah,
happening.
they made him like the son of a monkey at one point. Yeah, it was really weird.
like Saint
Like,
Dumas,
actually-
they were
like-
merging DNA with super soldiers and animals.
Yeah, like, and they found
you
out
know,
his
my
mother
thought
was
is-
a gorilla. And it was like,
That's
what?
my thought. Is I go, I want to make a villain, human gorilla. Yes, I
But
love
like they
this.
were trying to
Let's
give
do it.
reasons why he had enhanced strength and how the
Right.
suit worked, but they didn't want to go down the religious path, which is what like his whole thing was.
Yeah, it was like a weird
Yeah.
semi-religious and then monkey.
Would have been
So
better if it was
anyway.
a demon. Just saying.
In a marvelous case of be careful what you wish for. All right, we'll go back. The aforementioned 90s were a literal dark time for comic books. The superheroes everywhere switching to black leather, beefed up grit machines such as Cable dominating pages, and stories taking a more violent turn.
Everybody had spikes for some reason.
And denim hoodies.
And denim hoodies. Yes.
And battle armor with flamethrowers.
I mean,
And
that's
boob
just
windows.
and boob windows.
And
You
boob
gotta
windows.
have
Boob
all
windows.
four. Whew, you were epitome 90s.
How would that even work?
I don't want to think about it. Just keep
It's a
going.
denim hoodie with a 4 boob window in the hoodie.
Over the armor.
with spikes on the
Yeah,
shoulders
everybody knows it. Yeah.
and armored pants.
Yeah, makes sense.
Somebody draw that.
Yes, please.
If we got any fan artists out there.
You didn't see our fan artist? They drew up a pregnant Bruce Wayne with Clark Kent.
No, I did not see that.
Fantastic. It's amazing.
I did not see that. I need to
was
see
brilliant.
it.
I'll show you after this.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, fans became restless with how Batman wasn't quite living up to the era and demanded that he start snapping necks pronto. Now, the funny part about this is that's pretty accurate. They wanted Batman to be grittier, to start like just killing people. Fast forward 20 years to Zack Snyder,
And
having
they're like, what the hell are they doing? Batman would never kill people. You wanted a Batman who kills, you get Azrael.
Or
In a
Red
mo-
Hood.
Or Red Hood.
In a marvelous case of be careful what you wish for, the writers obliged by having the original Bruce Wayne's spine reduced to Rice Krispies by Bane, forcing him into retirement and having an ultra gritty assassin Azrael take over the job. Now, for those who don't know, real quick, I'm going to interject here. When Azrael took over, Batman had defeated him as Azrael and was helping him rehabilitate.
Yes, that is true, yes.
He wasn't like, I'm gritty. It was like, oh, you're doing well. You seem like you kind of have the idea. You understand all the training. It was that kind of a
It's
thing.
the dark multiverse, but not going as dark as the dark multiverse.
Right. And I think it was Tim Drake at the time agreed also.
Was the Robin, yeah.
Yeah, that Jean Paul would be great for the role and
Yeah,
would help
yeah.
him out. So,
Interesting.
complete with the ultra bizarre shoulder extensions, golden epaulets, and a metric ton of sharp weapons, Asbats took to the streets and started to reign a violent terror as the only Batman, and fans loved it. Now, once again, I want to interject here. I get he's just getting to the point, but that actually took like almost a year.
Of what? Him becoming Batman?
No, Asbats, like armored Batman, because he just put on the bat suit originally.
No, it wasn't a year. It was shorter.
Was it shorter? I
Yeah.
thought it was like a year of him just
No,
being
it
Batman
was-
and
it basi-
gradually putting parts on.
No, it was basically Bruce Wayne got his back snapped.
Yeah.
And then Jean Paul took over as Batman, and originally he was just Batman.
Yeah,
A
that's-
normal Batman costume.
And he was working with Tim. There was no problem.
And then he developed claws.
yeah, I
Because
thought
what's cooler than batarangs? Claws that shoot batarangs.
that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was claws that shoot batarangs.
That is cooler.
And it was only a few issues where he had the claws, and then he was getting his ass kicked by Bane and his goons, and was like, you know what I need? Armor. And it was like one issue. He designed the armor, had the armor. I think it was Batman 900.
Was it? Okay.
Something like
I do
that.
remember Tim trying to stop him with the claws, and his answer kind of being like, "I don't need you. I can take
Well,
care
he's
of Bane."
like,
and
I
be
don't
back."
need a Robin. He's like,
Right.
I never said I wanted a Robin.
Yeah.
And then Tim Drake showed up like 3 panels later, and he's like, what the hell? And then you just see like armored Batman sweeping over the city.
Asbats took to the street and started a reign of terror as the all-new Batman, and fans loved it. Yeah, nah, they didn't. As was the original intention of the writers, Azrael's run as Batman was incredibly unpopular due to how he became a bloated caricature of everything those vocal fans had wanted with added angst and darkness. His tenure lasted until the original Bruce Wayne healed up and realized that he should probably take back his title from the psychopathic person dropping people off the buildings for fun. The original Batman returned as the dark yet heroic character we all know and love. Fans who caused this whole mess learned that wholesale violence and slaughter does not make a superhero icon. I do think if you read into the story behind doing Azrael, I do remember that that was kind of the thing. They wanted you to hate him.
They were like,
Right.
oh, you want a dark and gritty Batman? We got you. They're gonna hate this, and they weren't wrong.
And it didn't.
At first, they were like, "Oh crap, they're loving it. Damn it, all right, make it grittier."
Actually, I think that's how. Like originally, it was just he was like a little gritty, and they were like, "Oh, they're still loving it. Add more armor, flamethrowers."
Eventually, they're like, "All right, just create a bat chainsaw. It's got nothing but little bats."
Every little blade is shaped like a bat. That would actually be really cool.
And I think the reason why this story's never been like, oh, it's one of the worst Batman stories ever. People still look to Nightfall as one of the best.
Because there are worse ones.
No, they made you know that this was going to be changed. It wasn't.
Right.
Oh yeah, it was never like this is Batman.
Right. It was like when Doc Ock took over Spider-Man, and in the ending of the first issue, you're like, oh, Peter Parker's still there.
Yeah.
It was that kind of a change because I think during this whole thing, Batman was training with somebody to get.
Oh,
back.
they showed Bruce Wayne like going through physical therapy.
Right, so you knew
like
he was
Right.
training, getting fixed. People were calling him, telling him the situation. Like you
was
knew
like,
it was. Oh, we're getting to it eventually.
He's like, I'm paralyzed right now. I'm not really sure what you want me to do about it.
So moving forward, because we're already at 35 minutes, I thought that would be a lot shorter. We kind of took a lot more time on the back end of those.
Well, we had to really go into the boob.
Or do you
That
want to
is
save
true.
this one for another?
the fourth.
What do
Nah,
you think,
screw
Dan?
it. Go.
Let's do it.
Okay. 10 massive character changes in the New 52 that didn't last long.
All of them.
Most of them, honestly, yeah.
Whatever. Okay, if you watched our episode last week, then we
Yep.
explained this one a
Whatever
little
was
bit.
happening with New 52 Superboy, it was rough for a little bit.
I kept reading like all the issues.
Yeah, like
and-
what is he doing?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't this the Tron suit Teen Titans?
Yeah, it was and he was turned out to be a clone, but he wasn't really a clone, but he was a clone of like futuristic Superman who turned out to be evil.
Well, because the idea is they were like, wow, that Young Justice Superboy is really popular. What if we did that, but worse?
Put him in a Tron suit.
Yeah.
I just love the text on this one. Whatever was going on with New 52 Superboy. When the New 52 started, he was a completely new character. While still a clone, he was no longer a clone of Superman with some Luthor DNA thrown in. Instead, he was a clone of the villainous future son of Superman and Lois Lane. Fans couldn't care, and he was killed.
That's true.
I don't think he was ever killed, though. I think he's just stopped.
No, do you want to know where he is? I bet that's the one that's currently trapped in
it's
Shazam.
not Superboy Prime. It's New 52
It's New 52
Superboy.
I think
Superboy.
that's Con-El.
And
that was
he
the
is
whole
just
thing.
so pissed that everyone forgot about him and that
Yeah, I
he
can
didn't
see
even
that.
get to
They
die.
turn him into the new Superboy Prime.
At least he would have a history behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's the problem with Superboy. Everyone loves Superboy Prime, and I'm like, he doesn't have like.
I literally love it because I had to do that story when he first showed up in Infinite Crisis, and he was just like, "Hey guys, I'm here."
Everyone's like,
And,
Superboy Prime.
and they're like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Superboy Prime. I know him. He's cool." And they're like, "All right."
He
Turns out, Gary, come back to me. He wasn't cool.
Number 9 was Promiscuous Starfire.
I still like Promiscuous.
Honestly, that one never
Starfire.
never made sense that people didn't like this because it's like it's literally an alien that is naked a lot of the time because they don't care about clothes and learns languages by kissing people.
Yes.
It's
Which
a
is
very
awesome.
sexual alien. So it's like in a bikini.
Hold on, I'm getting really bilingual here.
So the problem. So here's the issue with that. I can explain actually what happened with Promiscuous Starfire.
Okay.
Starfire was that.
Yeah.
She's literally a character, a male fantasy from the whatever era she was
I wanna say
created.
70s,
Like 70s. That's
70s,
hence
80s,
part of
yeah.
her outfit and everything like that. When the New 52 came out was 2011. You know what was popular around that time? Teen Titans,
Porn?
the show.
Sorry.
And Starfire is not a promiscuous
that is true.
sleep around
Not
and
in the
everyone
Teen
character.
Titans show, yeah.
No. I believe, I'm pretty sure
I think
this
the first panel of what is it? The Red Hood, not first panel, but I think the first panel that shows her is that she's in like the tiniest bikini possible coming
Yeah.
out of the water or something like that. Yeah.
So at this point, 2003 was the original show. At this point, most fans, because she really hadn't popped up like as a prominent role in a very long time. No, she hadn't popped up in a while. So she
Popped out.
people, for the most part, when she would show up, fine, whatever. But everyone kind of forgot about 70s Starfire,
Right.
and the only people that people know about was the not bikini wearing, not large, well endowed woman. I'm fixing it so I can say it on
She's
podcast.
got great personality, okay?
But like in the kicker was her introduction was her holding a towel, barely covering herself, and then she was sleeping with.
Yeah, I was gonna
Dick
say, and
Grayson.
Roy and Jason were both like
Sleeping
you
with
sleeping with her. No, but if you want to, it's cool.
No, they were both sleeping with her.
Oh, okay.
That was the thing, and like it was.
What's the problem?
Jason thought he was dating her, then she slept with Roy, And they both are like, what's going on? And she's like, it's my people. I just sleep with everyone.
And they were like, all right.
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful of your
Of
culture.
your culture. That's what it is.
So, but the problem is most people had fallen in love with the Teen Titans show at the time. Teen
Yep.
Titans Go wasn't a thing to start tarnishing her name
Right.
again. That's actually why when they reinvented her after this, she then became the ditzy girl in Miami for
Yeah.
like 10 issues.
Actually, I really like the art on that story.
Yeah. Do you remember that little
Yeah,
brief?
I remember that, yeah.
Like it was like she went from this to, I don't even know English. You're like, what?
So I stopped kissing people.
But yes, that was a lot of backlash to Promiscuous Starfire. She was in Red Hood and the Outlaws. That's how I knew that story so closely because
Right.
it was the Red Hood book. She was one of the outlaws.
She was.
Number 8. Oh,
Oh, this was the best.
this was a good one.
This
So
was
I
actually
really
probably a
like-
really good version of this character. Yeah.
actually, okay, this isn't bad ones.
I
This
was
is
gonna
short.
say it's ones that just
Yeah.
disappeared. It doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean they're bad changes.
So-
This is definitely not a bad show.
no, this
No.
was actually really good for Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner became a Red Lantern, and that was an incredible storyline, and it gave him purpose. We didn't have 4 at the time, 4 Green Lanterns. Now we have 6 again because they brought him back, and we got 2 more. Like, how does that fix anything? But yeah, no, that was great. He was undercover as the Red Lanterns, then became the leader of the Red Lanterns, then he defeated Atrocitus, and he even helped Supergirl get over her Red Lantern ring.
And then becomes the Christmas Lantern,
And Christmas Red Lantern Supergirl was also a great thing.
I actually really like that
which was also a very good one. Yeah.
Because that lasted a while as well, and it gave her more purpose. It gave it really separated her from Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which has always been a problem with Supergirl. I like the character, but depending on what writer's writing it, it's just Superman
It's
with
just-
boobs, basically.
Yeah.
Is what that's what it comes down
That's
to.
the tagline. Super boobs. Supergirl. Superman with boobs.
I'm just saying, depending on who's writing her, when we get
Yeah,
a good,
yeah,
solid story, which I actually really enjoyed the New 52 take, where she basically broke away from Superman immediately, didn't know English, made her own friend, learned English, was going
pissed
through her
all
own
the
stuff.
time.
She was pissed all the time.
She was very angry girl.
Well, the idea was that she was 16 and basically.
Yeah, it was didn't know what the hell was going on. She
Yeah.
just got to Earth.
And-
no,
and-
she was pissed all the time, but it was like it was what
Warranted.
would. Yeah, exactly. It was a good take on the character.
Yes. Yeah.
Like if your homeworld exploded and you were a teenager and you got sent to Earth, because let's be honest,
And
Earth
got
sucks.
trapped in space for a while. and
Yeah,
your
like you'd be
baby
pissed
cousin's
off.
now an
yeah,
adult.
yeah.
And then to top it all off, she wasn't teaming up with Superman to help really separate her from Superman because she was like, look, you were a baby when I knew you.
Yeah.
I don't know you. Which I actually think makes more sense than the usual take on her of going, Cal, you're like 30 now?
Yeah.
Right. 'Cause
Okay.
that's definitely not something I would personally trust. Of, oh, you're an adult man that's claiming to be my baby cousin.
Sure.
Sure, why not? I'll go with that.
So I really liked that take on her, and I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
the character. I feel like depending on who writes her, I think recently we've had some good ones with her because they really are trying to not, because of the show,
Right.
they're
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to not make her Superman.
Yeah.
But for years,
I like the one where she went out into space. You didn't particularly care for that story, but
The
she was
only-
going to like search for like the remnants of Krypton.
The
and
only
things
no,
like
I
that.
liked the story. The problem I felt with it was it didn't feel like Supergirl really, and that's it. Just felt like a different kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
It almost like when Kyle Rayner was the Omega Lantern in the Omega Men. Like they
Right.
were trying to pitch it as a Green Lantern plot, and it's like it's not.
Right,
He
yeah, yeah.
immediately gets rid of the ring, and then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have 12 issues of no ring. Like that's not a Green Lantern plot.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah,
Actually, one of the few books by Tom King I enjoyed.
Omega Men.
Yeah, I did
And then
like
he becomes
that,
the
yeah.
Omega Lantern
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
ending,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
that just no one ever brings up the Omega Lantern.
We're never going to talk about that again.
We got a different ring called the Phantom Ring.
I don't want to talk about it.
Well, we got that one back because Cyborg Superman hacked into the
Let's not talk about that.
Phantom ring and then
No,
becomes
no,
like
no, it
the
never
leader of
happened.
the
Do you
Green
not like what's
Lanterns.
going on?
Never
Odyssey?
happened.
I won't lie though.
No, actually,
Everything
yeah,
with
I
the
like
Red
Odyssey.
Lanterns were. I loved the Red Lanterns.
I did too. Yeah.
Like I thought
Plus,
that
we
was
have the cat. What's his name?
exactly
Dexter.
Dexter.
Dexter,
That's like
thank
the
you.
only one that's still around that
It is true. Yeah.
gets used.
The biggest issue I have right now with the Green Lantern mythos, it's not even that Grant Morrison's writing Green Lantern and I'm not a fan of what he's doing with the character. That's fine. You can take Hal and go do what you want.
Right.
It's that we're like ignoring everyone else except Jon Stewart. We're ignoring Kyle. We're ignoring Guy Gardner. We're ignoring Simon. Jessica Cruz is
Odyssey.
She's in
Odyssey,
Odyssey.
so she's at least got a book.
Yep.
But she's not even a Green Lantern anymore.
She's an Omega Lantern.
Lantern.
Actually, oh my gosh,
Well,
she
at
is
this point,
technically
how
an
many-
Omega Lantern.
How many human lanterns do we need? They're like, there's a
also
new
got,
Green Lantern.
We've
It's
got
another
Farsector.
human.
But we also.
What's wrong with that
When was the
planet?
last time the Red Lanterns actually showed up? Because didn't they pop up briefly in Odyssey, but that was it? Yellow
No,
Lanterns. haven't been around?
Dexter. That's,
Just
that's
Dexter, yeah.
literally
He's
the
still there,
only
too.
Oh, okay.
thing
Yeah.
that we've got.
But we haven't gotten a real Red Lantern story.
No, they're gone.
I think St. Walker's dead. I don't even know where the blues are right now.
I
Yellow
think
Lanterns.
they got rid of all the colors. To
Yeah,
be honest, like for the
Yellow's
most
not
part.
around because he's now an Ultraviolet Lanterns in Estro. Like
Yep.
they just kind of obliterated all the lantern stuff.
Got too convoluted.
Wait, did they like try and explain it because of Sinestro with the ultraviolet lantern and he annihilated some of the cores?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
I know the Indigo tribe is on like a
Somewhere,
different
yeah.
planet and no one talks to them because they click.
Speaking of Green
Because
Lantern,
they can't actually talk.
Speaking of Green Lantern, and I actually liked this when Sinestro became a hero.
Yeah.
He went back to being a
Yeah,
hero
became-
Green Lantern.
yeah.
Hal Jordan, for those who don't know, in the early New 52, Hal Jordan lost his ring for finally just abusing the Guardians' authority. And they were like, we're done. We are done with you. I think it was it was after Blackest Night, Rise of the Third Army. Because the Guardians were trying to make the Third Army, and they knew Hal could become a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So they found any reason to remove his ring, but the ring immediately went to Sinestro.
well, yeah.
Is that the one where then he became like grew super long hair and had
No.
Krona's gauntlet?
So Sinestro got the ring, and then Sinestro went out to try and be a hero, but realized he couldn't be a hero. So he made
Sinestro.
so he made a clone of his ring to Hal Jordan, which tied Hal Jordan to him, and he was like, "I'll give you
That's
back your
right.
power, but you got to help me do this."
So he's a Green
That's
Lantern warlock from
right.
D&D.
I like it.
There you go.
what you're referencing when he went off to get that gauntlet
Yeah.
is after all of that. The
And then he had a
Guardian,
spaceship and a,
Yeah.
and a hoodie, I think, didn't he?
he had a hoodie. It was
Yeah.
It was like a hoodie trench coat
That's
thing.
right.
Yeah.
There's nothing more
And he
cool
grew
than
his
a
hair
hoodie
out
trench
massively.
coat.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, there is a denim hoodie
Oh,
trench
yeah,
coat.
that would be sweet.
That was during the period after all of this. I believe the Guardians were completely gone.
Yeah.
And I forget the reason behind it, but he needed to steal the gauntlet. It was like the idea of
then
like,
he was like a Green Lantern outlaw.
yeah,
Wasn't
that's what
it?
it
The
was.
idea? Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, oh, I have to do this to get to this case, and they're stopping me. So I'm going to steal the gauntlet to do the case.
When you say Green Lantern outlaw out loud, it sounds really cool.
I would read a story called Green Lantern Outlaw.
Green Lantern outlaw. Yeah.
All right,
I'm
number.
pitching it. Tom King's gonna
I
write
actually liked this because this is back when Jeff Johns was still writing Green Lantern. I thought this was a great direction for it.
Oh yeah.
Just like this is back
I
when Jeff
love
Johns
the
was.
Jeff Johns.
This is
Green
back when
Lantern
Jeff Johns
stuff.
is more directly involved. Hence Supergirl becoming Red Lantern.
Right.
Hence Guy Gardner becoming Red Lantern because all the Lantern Corps were still active.
Yeah, it was a thing. Yeah.
Number 5 is James Gordon as Batman, which I hated at first and started to grow in me, and then they ended it.
Right.
What do they call it? Heavy weapon.
Super heavy.
Super heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you got the bunny armor.
Yes.
But
The
it was
bunny
like
bat.
a battle suit. But what I liked about the story and the way that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo did it is it proved you can't just be Batman because you have technology.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah,
It was Bruce
Which was
Wayne
that was
made.
the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
the idea that anybody could be Batman? We just throw him in a suit of armor and it'll be cool. And it doesn't work like that.
Right, and that's exactly what the whole point of the
Yeah.
the
Especially
biggest.
when you keep him still as a cop, following cop rules.
Right.
Well,
Well,
and that was
that's
the
kind
plot,
of
yeah.
the
and he
biggest
says that,
difference.
I think he says that at the end. He's like, "I'm not Batman."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm a cop playing Batman." And it's like, "But I'm not Batman." And then Batman has to show up and do stuff.
Yeah.
Batman stuff.
It was Mr. Bloom of the
yeah,
one
yeah.
we've never seen again.
He gone.
What I the only thing I had a problem with when James Gordon became Batman is the way that Greg Capullo drew him.
Oh yeah, he went from being in like his 60s to like he
Yeah.
was like early 30s.
He looked like he had just gotten out of the army.
Yeah.
And they said it like, wow, you shave off that mustache.
He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just working out now. It's no big deal. Pretty much Batman." What?
Didn't he have like red hair for
Yeah.
some reason as well?
no, he's a redhead.
He's
But
always
he
had like
shaved it
reddish
into a
hair.
high and
Okay.
tight.
Yeah, he shaves
He's
into high
al-
and
he's
tight. He
always-
shaves the
I guess it's always
mustache.
been gray.
He lifts a couple weights. Good to be Batman.
That's how that works. Number 4. Oh, Andy, I know you liked this.
Wildstorm characters in the DC universe. What a waste of great characters. Although I will say, of all of them, Apollo and Midnighter were probably the best.
Midnighter was great because he crossed over into Grayson.
Yes.
I didn't even know who Midnighter was, and then he's just
He had
showing
his own
up.
book too for
Yeah.
a little while.
Is he the one that sees the weaknesses? 'Cause
Yes.
He's got like super reflexes, minimum super strength, but he can read someone's like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So he like
That was-
if
I
he's
really liked
fighting,
that.
he can already see what you're going to do. So that's how he beats you.
I think my favorite part about that was when they did the art forks. If I remember right, it was the like it shows them fighting and does like the red
Yes.
squares. I loved that art and like
they
that
were
way
actually
to do it.
their version, the DC Universe version of them was actually pretty solid, and Midnighter's book was pretty good. But then same thing, it just kind of disappeared. Went
They
away.
put him in Omega Man, didn't he?
Yeah, no. Well, initially it was Grifter, Voodoo, and Stormwatch got their own books.
Voodoo's was pretty solid. Grifter was crap.
And
Unfortunately,
then
it was a crap version of the character.
And then Midnighter, I don't think Apollo was around at the time, but Midnighter showed up in the Grayson book, and then that kind of spun out into his own thing.
Well, they both show up in the new 52's version of Stormwatch.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
right,
they were both there. That was how they met in the new 52. and then he shows up in Midnighter's book.
Okay, yeah. Well, because I know in Grayson he was like they would fight occasionally, and he'd pretty much just comment on Dick Grayson's butt.
Yeah, he became like his frenemy.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
that's all it really was. But like every time Dick Grayson would show up, he'd be like, "He's leaving."
I mean, the first issue of Grayson,
do that?
Grayson's like on top of a train, and he like throws his Glock, but it like boomerangs back and cracks the guy in the head, and like Midnight is watching. He's like, I think I'm in love. Or something like that.
He's not even joking. The whole 12 issues. No, it went up for like 24.
There was a lot of Grayson.
Yeah, Grayson.
Was this during like the Agent Grayson?
Yeah,
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Midnighter was that guy that was basically had a crush on Grayson. It was always checking him out. And then they discover like he was his frenemy the whole time. But he had the garden, I guess it was, and he was using the doors. So
yes, that's
the
where,
ultimate plot. Ended up using him in his doors.
I did read that one.
Now, original
video,
Wildstorm Universe, Stormwatch, Midnighter, Apollo is awesome. You should all go check it out. And
Was
then,
that a Grant Morrison thing or an Alan Moore?
It started off as a Grant Morrison thing and went, a Warren Ellis thing, went into Grant Morrison and then Mark Miller.
Okay.
And then they rebooted it into the Wildstorm universe, which you did not care for, but I really liked. So.
It's still going, isn't it?
No, it ended, and then they were going to do a Wildcats book that got pushed back and is on hold indefinitely, unfortunately.
I just felt that it had a really slow build, and I wasn't.
It was a slow burn comic.
And I wasn't as attached to the Wildstorm characters as you were, so I was just like, all right, Midnighter had me, but I'm kind of because I really dug Midnighter after his interactions with Grayson. I was like, who is this guy?
It was a cool
Holy
character.
crap, he's like a whole character. He's got his own thing.
And it's like if Batman wasn't afraid to beat the crap out of people. They might die. It'll be all right.
And at a place where he could jump around,
That's true, yeah.
Very good
The garden, yeah.
Number 3 is when Superman lost his powers. Now, I read recently that this was an attempt to bring him back to the 1940s Superman, which
that was the
couldn't
idea.
fly and anything like
That
that.
was the
It
idea.
was the
That was Grant Morrison
leap
was trying to
buildings
do,
in a
yes.
single bound because he couldn't fly at first, if you weren't aware.
Some
Some people aren't aware of
It's
that.
true.
I thought the plot here was okay. My biggest complaint with this, it happened during DCU, where the idea was story over continuity.
Yes.
And so there was like 3 storylines going on with Superman at the time, and none of them linked together, and they were all about this.
Yes.
It was like in one he was fighting this villain, and in one he was riding the motorcycle across the country, and another one it's like they're all happening at the same time.
Although
that doesn't work. You literally said he can't speed anymore.
I do like the idea of an underpowered Superman riding a motorcycle around the U.S. and fighting crime. I honestly would watch that show.
I would too.
Yeah.
I'd totally watch that.
Number 2
Super
is
Spy Dick Grayson.
that was another. I felt it was a great change for Dick Grayson.
And
did
another
miss
Tom King book I actually enjoyed.
I will say I did miss Nightwing with this.
Yes.
But Super Spy Dick Grayson, I thought had a great plot that was unveiling. And
I wouldn't have wanted it forever. I do. Because I mean, I like Dick Grayson as Nightwing, but for what it was,
and he was very Nightwing.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a good thing, but I wouldn't have wanted him to be a spy the whole time.
Right.
No. What I liked about it was, it was Dick Grayson. He acted like Dick Grayson. He was interacting with all the characters. That's the difference between the Rick Grayson thing they're doing now.
Yes.
Where he's like, oh, I have amnesia, and I don't know how to be Dick Grayson.
Right.
When
He was still Dick Grayson. He was just a cool spy.
Yeah, that's all it was, and he was basically doing all the Batman stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Just with no suit, because now he was just an undercover spy.
Yeah.
And then number
And
1.
a swirly face.
Wonder Woman's origin and the changes made to the Amazons. The Brian Azzarello stuff where they
yes,
Greek
yeah.
guys.
Well,
I
although I
actually
enjoyed that.
really liked that.
I enjoyed that run, yeah.
I think this is the one that I liked. I can't remember.
I don't know.
This was during the same time that
covered
Deathstroke
the whole
got
story.
his God Killer swords. Because I
I
loved
believe
that
so.
version of Deathstroke.
The peace-loving island of women who would fight when they're needed was completely changed. The Amazons would be revealed to be basically pirates, kidnapping men from passing ships and using them for breeding before cruelly putting them out of their misery. It was also revealed that Wonder Woman herself was a daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta. Eventually, this would all be abandoned. I liked that, though.
I did too, yeah.
And then, because then she was also attached to the Pantheon. So, like, she had her brothers and her sisters. And then Brian Azzarello had this really unique take on the Pantheon.
Yep.
Like God of War being like an old, grizzled, like, big, long beard cowboy kind of guy.
Yeah.
And, and then she had the first son or whatever it was that she was fighting. That was great.
Zeus's first son that had been banished because he was too strong and would wipe out the Pantheon.
I thought it was a great take, but a lot of people did not like that one,
Hades had
actually.
a candle for a head.
But I will say they did let it finish.
It did. It did. I mean, like, it's practically a alternate reality version of Wonder Woman.
I mean, New
because
52 is.
because they'd never reference it anymore.
They-
It had a start,
right.
it had a finish, and that's it. Like, and then they just kind of moved back into normal Wonder Woman stories.
The next story after that was the reveal of Donna Troy.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we started,
So it
and
kinda
then
just turned
Greg
into-
Rucka turned it into, well, you've actually never been back to the island of the Amazons,
Yeah.
which means that version doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it almost became like an alternate reality version of
Yeah.
Wonder Woman.
Which it's one thing I like about it because it is like, you ever read a book? Anyway.
No.
Yes, all the time. I don't know what we're going.
No,
with.
but like you ever read through your favorite series? Like for me, Dark Tower is probably one of my all-time favorite like series of books that I've read.
Yes, you stole that from me, but yes,
No, I didn't steal Dark Tower
I
from
have
you.
a tattoo, but that's fine. Go ahead, keep going.
Obviously, you're a bigger fan. Does that make you feel better?
It does. Keep
Thank
going.
you for the validation.
Yes,
Actually, I don't remember how I found Dark Tower.
I told you.
Did you tell me
I
about
gave
it?
it to you. Yeah,
Okay.
actually.
I read the. 'Cause I just remember the
You
last.
still have it. Give it back.
I'm gonna need those back.
I just remember the last book came out while I was in Iraq, and I had
Yes.
to order it, and I was
because
reading.
you asked me. You were like, I need a book to read. What should I read? And I gave you a copy of my gun. I gave you my copy of Gunslinger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it's one of my all-time favorite series.
Yeah.
But it's done. You're like, I feel good. And
Yeah,
at
yeah,
a
yeah,
beginning
yeah,
and
yeah.
an end, and that's how I feel about that Wonder Woman. I do love comic books, but sometimes we all get worn out reading comic books because they just never end.
Right.
Yeah.
They just keep repeating the same basic story over.
Right.
And over
You
again.
can't be like, well, I'm gonna read. It's not like watching your favorite show and when it ends, you're done. It's like I'm gonna read Batman until it ends. Well, be talking to you in 80 years.
God, how is Bruce Wayne still in his mid-30s? Doesn't make any sense.
So I think that's what I liked about that Wonder Woman book was it started out and reinvented her entire origin, and we got like I think it was 35 issues.
I think so, yeah.
Of like a full story that came from beginning to end.
I think it might have
wrapped
been
it all
40.
up. Huh?
I think it might have been 40.
I remember like 41s when
They switched over,
They had
yeah,
like
yeah.
Donna Troy and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was like a weird arc in the middle where they were like, well, we don't know what to do. Brian Azzarello finished. Like,
Yeah.
And we didn't plan for this.
Damn it. I didn't think he was going to finish his story. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm
never
done.
do that.
I think part of the problem, honestly, is Brian Azzarello did such a drastic change to Wonder Woman. Once it was over it was I would say
Realistically, their only choice was to revert.
because unless he left a series of world building notes,
Yeah.
because he had changed so much, like
Right.
you had nothing to reference anymore. That's pretty much what that came down to. With Batman and the New 52, you could easily go, okay, well he had this character, we're gonna pop them in.
Yeah.
Superman was like this character,
Right.
pop them in. You know, the Flash, we have Wally West, don't use him. Why? Because why not?
Speed Force bullshit. That's why.
But Wonder Woman, you couldn't use anything from her past unless you brought her back.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so yeah,
Well, that got awkward.
Yeah.
that's our show. Thank you for
Jesus.
joining us today
That energy
for
drop.
the 1 a.m. Rice cookies and tea hour. Dan, what tea would you recommend that they drink during this hour?
Tetley British blend.
Tetley British
is my
blend. And Andy, what cookies would you recommend with Tetley British blend?
Chocolate chip.
All right. So everyone, please go get your Tetley British tea. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see this every Saturday. You can find it live on twitch.tv at Comicstorian, twitch.tv/Comicstorian.
How is it I can get it right now and you screw it up?
It's too much energy.
It's
for the ending of
because
the show. It's too much. It's too much. Bring
He's
it down.
focusing
Bring
so
it-
much on
bring it
keeping
down.
the
I
low
understand.
voice.
That
Bring it
makes
down.
sense.
Bring it down. Bring the energy down.
You're about to here. I need you about to here.
You're like a, you're like 11.
This
and
list
you're
was
like
a lot
4.
of fun, and if you would like to support the show and keep it going and make sure it doesn't ever get canceled, please consider going to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, where you can also get many other projects.
Why
that
are
we
you getting a
work on.
weird cadence to
I don't
your
know.
voice?
Now,
What's going on?
Mr. Spock, Warp 1. Thank you guys so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Let us know what you
Weird.
think about these character designs that didn't work out in the comments down below. And if you happen to come across a fun list, make sure you join our Discord and shoot it over to me, because this is where we discuss them and we just laugh about how stupid comics can be. Can be.
Yes, we do.
It's true.
Thank you. And let's sign out. Dan, do your official sign out.
Thank you for watching. I'm Dan, team producer.
Andy, do your official sign out.
Thank you. And have a pleasant tomorrow.
And good morning, Detroit. Enjoy your Justice League.
Bye, guys.